Hey guys, welcome back to Pack Talk with me, your host, Pete Vodden. Good to be back with you guys. Took a little break, went to Europe, visited some family, saw some things, went to Amsterdam, visited some gyms, visited some CrossFit gyms, some more traditional gyms, kind of saw what the industry was doing over there, which was pretty interesting to me. I always like to go to gyms when I go to different countries and just see the vibe and see what's kind of happening. And it's always kind of an eye opener. The main thing I always look at now as a gym owner is I just think to myself, how the hell are these gyms surviving? Like, how are they making money? How are they making enough money based on the amount they're charging at the gym and based on what I see happening in the gym and based on how much money they've spent on the gym, which is usually, if it's more the kind of Globo gym, multi-millions of dollars. It always kind of confuses me of how it's actually happening. So I'm always trying to figure that out in my head because obviously it's very relevant to my situation. So yeah, super fun time. But now we're back and we're happy to be back. And today I'm especially happy because I'm joined by Lalo Torres. Did I say that right, Lalo?
Yeah, you said it right.
Good. Uh, Lalo's one of those guys. We all train in the gym, we all work hard and so forth. Then every now and again, somebody shows up and everyone kind of turns their head. Is like, who the fuck is this guy? Because he's kind of like just crushing over in the corner, and everyone's like, how's he doing this? So I've been super keen to talk to Lalo in depth for a while. We've had some little conversations over the time, but this is the first time we've ever had a chance to sit down and really talk. Because the great thing about this conversation today is I don't know much about Lalo. I just know that he's awesome. He's a good dude. His social media is phenomenal. Like probably one of the best CrossFit social medias I've ever seen. Like super high quality videos, great content all the time. So we're going to get into that a little bit. But Lalo, first of all, thank you. Welcome. Great to have you here. I'm thrilled to have you with that Pharos. I always love it when really good athletes show up. So it's a pleasure to have you. Um, and let's start with kind of your story, because, like I said, I don't really know that much about how you got to this point, or how you got so good, or how you found CrossFit or anything. So let's hear a little bit about you, your kind of origins of the sport.
Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you for having me, Pete. So I appreciate that. Yeah, the kind of to make a long story short, because I feel like and being in the fitness industry, you try so many different things, and usually you come from different sports and stuff like that. I'm originally from Miami, and I was I did 16 years of gymnastics, competitive gymnastics. I went to the Junior Olympics, and then I kind of went into when I went to school, I ended up dropping out my first year of college and did Cirque du Soleil. I literally left and did the circus basically.
Oh shit!
I did that for 2.5 years, and it was great. It was an awesome experience. I did the teeter board act, which is like basically a big seesaw board, and there's one guy on one end and the other guy on the other end. They hop, 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 and do a bunch of flips like 50 feet in the air. It's kind of nuts. So yeah, I did that for the longest time, and then I ended up kind of pursuing a little bit of some bodybuilding. I did stuff for like some aesthetics for a little bit, and like got into running, and then eventually I became a private trainer. I started at the Ritz Carlton in South Beach in Miami, and started training people there. And then I also started training people at like the Soho House out of Miami as well. And so I just did that for the longest time. I trained, I was training people. I had a high clientele, which was fun. I got to meet, so many great people and train a lot of like high celebrities that I never thought that I would ever be able to do, and really enjoyed it at that time of my life. I was, I think, 22, and when I stopped training, or when I stopped becoming a private trainer in Miami, roughly it was like 22, 23. And it was, yeah, again, it was an awesome time of my life. And then I had a client actually who was super into CrossFit, and he's like, "Oh, you should try CrossFit out, or like, can you program some of these, like some of this in in the workouts that we do?" And I'm like, "Sure, like, why not?" I had always been against CrossFit because I would see what they do, and I'm like, "That's gymnastics," or like, why do they
Right?
move like, everybody's like first thought when you don't
Yeah, yeah.
do
You're a
CrossFit.
purist, and yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Um, and sometimes I still think that. I'm like, oh my God, people see me doing wall walks at the gym or whatever, and they're like, probably like, what the hell what is this guy doing? But anyway, so we started doing some CrossFit workouts, and I would end up training with this one client that I had. And after that, I got myself a trainer as well. And I was like, I had found this one CrossFit coach and that was there in Miami, and I started training CrossFit. And like I had these, like I started watching like YouTube videos, and like, oh, like, I saw Katrin and Rich Froning, and I was like, wow, I want to be like them. And
Yeah.
um yeah, and then it just kind of went from there. Like I quit training people. I had a coach, and I just started training myself, and just like I got a little bit more dialed in. And I would say like the first year was not a fun year at all. Like it was like I feel like when you're coming into CrossFit, you should really come into it and just enjoy it, because it's like new skills, and you take your time to learn things and stuff like that. And I think I put like I'm always like all in or nothing type of guy, and sometimes it could be a bit of a dangerous thing and not the best thing for me. But I was like, I'm gonna go to the games. Like this is what I'm gonna do. I went to like the
Mm.
Wadapalooza competition in Miami, and I'm like, this is what I'm
Yeah.
like. I'm gonna do it. And I started training out of a box, and I had got my L1, and they're like they asked if I wanted to coach steer, and I did that for like 2 months. And then after that, this was like 2018, and my cousin Jorge was in San Diego and training at CrossFit Invictus, and he's like, dude, you should come here, like let's try to go to the games and like all this stuff. And so that's what I did. I like got up, I left Miami, didn't even really think anything like of it. And um I moved to San Diego, and I started training at Invictus. And then I like kind of hit like a bit of a wall with training, and I was like, I kind of went through this phase where I'm like, okay, like I'm not really enjoying it, but I'm really enjoying coaching, because now like I've always loved coaching and helping other people. And there's like, as a trainer too, you have to change things up. And I was so used to how I train people in Miami. It's very different. I mean, people there mainly, at least if we're comparing Miami to California, like people train there for more for aesthetics. And in
Right.
California, it's a little bit more of a lifestyle. Maybe not here in LA. Like LA is kind of similar to Miami in some ways, but in San Diego, it's very much a lifestyle. Like people are out and about, and well, in California in general. But so I was enjoying training athletes and doing that. And I really wanted to coach at Invictus. And um, they really loved the way I taught gymnastics. And then it just kind of like went on from there. I started coaching, and I wanted to get really, really good at coaching, got my L2, and I did all those things. And then after coaching for some time at Invictus, I think maybe like 2 years ago, I was like, okay, I really want to make it to the games, but I can't do both.
Yeah.
Like I said, I think this is where again, it's like not always the best thing for me, but I'm like, I need to, like, for me to accomplish something, like I need to be like, focus on that one thing. I can't, it depends what it is, but I can't typically like do too many things all at once. It just doesn't work for me.
But also that is the reality of a games athlete these days.
Hmm.
Like you have to be so good at so many different things. It is a full-time job. It's
Yeah.
extremely hard to do it in tandem with anything else. Um, because you're never going to be able to recover enough. You're never going to be able to rest enough. You're never going to be able to eat enough.
Yeah.
It really is these days for better or for worse. And I think in many ways, actually for the worse. The only people who can be really, really like top tier level are the people that can dedicate their life to it like full time. And of course, the problem when you get to that stage is how are you supporting that? Like financially,
Yeah.
how are you supporting that?
Yeah.
It becomes very, very difficult because you haven't got
Mhm.
the time to, earn money from other stuff.
Yeah.
Uh, CrossFit doesn't pay you unless you win the games,
Yeah.
or if you win these other competitions. But even if you win these other competitions, it might be a few $1,000s here and a few $1,000s there, but
Yeah.
it's certainly not enough to survive in an expensive city like LA. So it becomes a real conundrum, and I think that is the position that so many athletes find themselves in,
Oh, yeah.
and why social media has become just so important, for those athletes.
I mean, just to, yeah, speak a little bit more on that, and we can definitely go in depth more towards the end about it. But like, there's absolutely zero reward for what you do in CrossFit. Like, you again, you have to really be a top athlete. You have to be like top 5 at the games in order to be, making great income from it. But like, other than that, like, that is one of the main reasons for the longest time I decided to push, social media, and push social media outside of CrossFit, like not do these CrossFit brands. I mean, I work with one, I guess, CrossFit brand that's like Rad Global with their shoes, but like, you know, I think it's important to like kind of build outside of it, because we all know that there's like a timestamp on CrossFit, really with any sport,
Mm,
right? So I think that was like the one thing that I felt I did right, is like, okay, let's try and push, like, and to be fair, I love doing what I do. I love making content. It's like I love being on the creative side. Like I love taking what I do in one thing and blending it with other things that I do here at home or whatever it might be. Um, but that is one of the reasons why I did pursue content and to continue to push that, and to do it outside of CrossFit and not work with these CrossFit brands. I guess, like, to come back to where I was at, I got really into coaching CrossFit and I enjoyed it so much. And then I stopped. I decided to quit coaching, and I was coaching a lot at Invictus. Like I was coaching about, I don't know, maybe about 4 to 6 classes, which to me was a lot, while also trying to train full time, put in like another 6 hours or so of training when you're splitting that up in like 2 sessions, sometimes three. Um, and I realized, like, okay, if I want to make it to the games, like I have to get really dialed in on this, and take better care of myself and really focus on recovery too. Cause you're standing and you're coaching and you're putting, like, to me, like, again, like I like to give my all in everything that I do. And I can't just like go through the motions or like coach, even though I've been doing it for so long. Like I really like to like make sure the
right.
energy is high in class. And I'm trying to coach everybody, even when there's like, I taught the competitors class at Invictus, and we have about like 30 to 40 people sometimes in that class. And to
Right.
teach a competition class that's 90 minutes long, sometimes longer than that, because it would just carry over. But like, there's so many things that you're teaching, right? Like you're going through a warm up, a primer, you're going through the skills. Sometimes there's like this big gymnastics piece, you're going through some weightlifting, you're going through the metcon, and I love to give the purpose in what we're doing, and making
Yeah.
sure that you're briefing these athletes, and that everybody that you're coaching, and doing a debrief. Like there's so many steps to like coaching, and how I view it. And to me, that's a lot of energy that you're putting out there. And
Well, we had this conversation before, and that is what is hard to find these days, is a great coach like that, who does have that feeling and that attention to detail, and that just wants to compassionately deliver a great product like that.
Mhm.
Um, and that's been, that's a challenge as a gym owner. That's a real challenge to find, because that's the kind of coach that you want. And as time has gone on, and I think it was different, it was different when we first started. There were definitely a lot more CrossFit coaches who were, really in love with it and pursuing it and doing their certifications and really pushing their knowledge and improving their knowledge all the time. And then for whatever reason, as time has gone on, you know, less people are coming through that are doing those certifications and are as passionate about it as people were like 5-10 years ago.
Oh
So
yeah.
that's been one of our challenges. So again, it's again super refreshing for me to hear you say that, but also it's kind of like that thing of you are so passionate about it that it takes you like more in the competitor's route, as an individual competitor, which takes you out of coaching in the end. Maybe it will bring you back in the end. Time will tell. We'll see. But that's always the difficult thing. The people that are very that passionate about it often, they want to be an athlete, so
Yeah.
they limit how much coaching they do, or how much coaching they can afford to do. So
Yeah.
again, that becomes a real difficult thing to balance. And when you're employing coaches, like when we employ coaches, we ask, do you consider yourself to be an athlete or a coach? And a lot of them say, well, can I be both? And it's like, well, you
Yeah.
can, but historically, what we found is, the people that are trying to be athletes, at some point, it detracts from their coaching ability, whether it be their ability to coach that much, or just feeling generally tired and fatigued
Yeah.
and don't have the energy to coach a great class anymore, because the competitive side of things takes so much out of them. So often the answer that we look for is, I consider myself a coach and not an athlete, because in terms of like what you can offer the business, we would rather a great coach than a great athlete. Now, that isn't always the case, because some athletes are phenomenal coaches, obviously, but in general, it can be an issue for both sides.
It's a great question to ask when you're interviewing some.
Yeah.
Yeah. somebody at the gym.
Well, it stumps some people because they're like, oh shit, what? Because I don't think they've actually asked themselves that question,
No.
whether they've made to the jump to say, no, I am an athlete and that's what I'm doing, or I am a coach. They're kind of like in that like weird middle ground, as I don't know whether I'm a coach or an athlete kind of thing,
Yeah.
because being a great coach in the like John Wooden sense of the term coach, it's a lifetime profession, and it's something that takes years of development, skill, and it's not just a go on a course and learn how to do something kind of thing. It's something that's inside of you. It's a wanting to help people. It's a passion. It's a you get your thrills out of helping other people. You
Oh
get your thrills out of seeing other people develop, not necessarily winning something because you're athletically good at something, but winning something through them. And that's how you get your satisfaction from life. And it's a different thing. And it's why great players and great athletes don't always make great coaches, because
yeah.
they can't transmit why they're good to someone else. They can't explain it. They can't define it because they're just naturally great at it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one side of it. And the other side of it is a personality thing. Like, not that, great athletes are by nature selfish, but to be a phenomenal athlete, to a degree, you have to be very selfish with
Yeah.
your time, because you kind of have to be, right?
Yeah.
And that selfishness, again, can detract from you being a great coach, if you're not careful.
Yeah.
So, it's definitely a hard line to walk. Luckily, I was never a good enough athlete to be, to have that concern. So, but I mean,
I
it's the
see you
same
moving.
thing.
I doubt that. I was like, I always see you moving these big weights and doing these sessions, and it's really cool to see what you're doing, and also to continue to like coach these 5 a.m. classes or 4. I don't even know what you guys are early at Redondo Beach or something.
Yeah, there's a 5 a.m. at Redondo. Yeah, I mean, I see myself now, obviously I'm more of a business owner. That's my,
Mhm.
my priority at the end of the day is to make sure all my employees get paid and that the doors stay open.
Yeah.
But that said, I love coaching. Like when I get the opportunity to do it, I love it. But the question I always have for myself now, and me and my wife have the same question, is like, what is our biggest contribution to this business, and how can we help it the most? And probably coaching 5 or 6 classes a day is not the biggest contribution,
Yeah.
although sometimes it is. Like sometimes we feel like we have to go back in to either like remind people of what the standard is, or remind people of what's expected, or just to kind of like show people how it was in the beginning and why it was successful in the beginning. Because
Yeah.
the longer the thing goes on and the further you move away from like the grassroots of where it started,
Mhm.
there's always, and this is the same in any business, there's always a possibility of things getting diluted and things being not quite as good and people like dropping the ball a little bit. So sometimes it is good to just jump back in and do it. So we always like to do that from time to time, even if we can't do it all the time. Now, of course, we find ourselves in Idlewild,
Yeah.
where we are in the mountains. We kind of have to, because we just don't have we don't have the personnel up here to
Yeah.
coach every class. But honestly, it's so rewarding up here, because it's smaller. It's a smaller community for sure. People aren't necessarily as advanced athletically, so definitely a lot more beginners. Definitely kind of an older demographic. But the sense of the sense of community, the sense of reward that you get from coaching those types of people
Hmm.
is amazing. So we
Yeah.
love coaching up here. And as you know, we're opening the Palm Springs location this year, and then
Yeah.
I'll be somehow, doing coming down the mountain, up the mountain, down the mountain, up the mountain, and trying to like spread
You're
ourselves
all
as
over
this.
California.
Yeah, yeah. Well, the goal was, of course, we have mountain, we have desert, we have beach, and we have city,
That's
and then you
cool.
have kind of that cool quartet,
Yeah.
sort of all over that kind of area of LA, which is super cool. It's going to be obviously a ton of work, a ton of management. We're still not exactly sure how we're going to make it happen, but we're going to make it happen one way or another.
Yeah.
But a lot of it just come down to finding great people to help us like manage and operate and coach. And we'll find those people. Those people are out there. It's
Yeah.
just
Definitely.
takes time, takes a little bit of luck.
Yeah.
But we like a lot of it just comes to passion. What are you passionate about? Like my passion really is to create great spaces for people like you and for our members. That's what I get a kick out of. If I can build phenomenal spaces where people walk in and like, fuck yes, this is what I want, this is what I need, this ticks my boxes. And if the boxes aren't ticks, I'm always trying to find ways to tick them.
Yeah.
I'm by nature a people pleaser to a fault to some degree, but I want that thing of people walking in and saying, not only this looks great, this is beautiful, but this functionally has what I need to,
Yeah.
get what I need out of it.
It is
And
like, and not just because we're, speaking right now on this podcast, but like, honestly, I've been to lots of different gyms and lots of, different CrossFit gyms. Like, you really do get everything there. Like, it's nice to be able to accessorize properly and, work certain muscle groups that you just can't really do at other, like CrossFit gyms. Like, it's always just like that same
yeah,
base of, you have the floor, you have the benches and the dumbbells. That's about it. And you have to work with like resistant bands to do like some hamstring curls or the other accessories, and like,
yeah,
it's so nice to have that when you, and to have it separated too. Like, you have your big CrossFit space and you go into the other room and you're like, all right, let's hit like some hamstrings, some glutes or whatever, some back, whatever it is that you need to do. It's so nice to have that. And
yeah.
yeah, you just
Well,
guys
it's kind of,
did
for
it.
me, it was twofold. It was kind of like I built it for people like you because I knew ultimately that's where the industry was going. Like, you can get pretty far with just a barbell and a rower,
Mhm.
but you'll get to a point where that's not going to work anymore. Like, you
Yeah.
have to accessorize. You need the other stuff. So I knew, like, with the athlete, that is something that was going to happen. And it's the same thing like with NFL players and so forth like that. You have to have that stuff to work on weaknesses, to create more balance, to improve in certain areas. You have to have that kind of open gym, globo gym, whatever you want to call it, type
Yeah.
environment, as well as, of course, the fucking box class, like energy, like CrossFit type experience.
Yeah.
And then also you have different markets. You have the bodybuilding market and you have the CrossFit market, and they can be intertwined or they can be separate. And either to me is fine. Like, I don't like, people can do whatever they want to do, but I want to give them that opportunity to do it. And, when we built the original Pharos, like, I just felt that was where the industry was going to go. And I think
Yeah.
to a degree, I'm right. I think it's still going that way.
Oh
I
yeah.
think, I
Yeah.
think anybody, and this isn't to diss anybody, and I want everybody to do well, but I think anybody that just has a 3,000 square foot CrossFit box that just does CrossFit and doesn't do anything else, I think it's going to be a struggle for them in the next few years, unless they can diversify in some degree or offer more than just the CrossFit class. I
Yeah.
mean, obviously, it still has massive benefits and so forth, but I just think that the demand is greater than that now. People just want more for their money.
Yeah.
And I felt that we were offered to do that. We were able to offer that with the first Pharos, and I think the Palm Springs project will be like a step even further, because it will have, and we'll get this at Echo Park as well at some point, but it will really have, like, you'll have your open gym where I have some phenomenal equipment, and you're going to fucking love this gym.
Oh, I can't
I have
wait.
some phenomenal equipment in the open gym. The CrossFit space is amazing. Huge turfed area, so you can do multiple sled drills and all kinds of sprint drills on there. And then we have ice bath area, sauna area. You have like a WeWork kind of space. So if you need to work, let's say you need to work on your social media videos or whatever, you can just sit there and work.
Oh wow.
You could literally go to this gym. You could spend all day there and get like a ton of stuff done, working out, working on your brand, working on your product, recovering, ice bath, sauna. There's going to be a cafe for nutrition and so forth. So it really is that kind of like one-stop shop experience, which
Yeah.
for the desert population is kind of amazing, especially because it is so hot there,
Yeah.
especially in the summer. People need to be inside in air conditioning and not like moving around in the heat. So it's a good opportunity to really offer a real fitness experience, not just
Yeah.
like going to the gym. It's like you're going in for a fitness experience that covers like all the bases.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm super excited for that. And again, it is built for people like you, but it's also built for anybody that just wants to, they want to specialize in this area or that area or whatever they want to do. I'm one of these people who, I've never been dogmatic about fitness. I think maybe 10 years ago, I was a little bit more like, it must be hard. It must be challenging. You gotta push yourself to your limit every day, otherwise you're not getting anything out of it. Now I'm a bit more chill. I'm like, there are days when it's fine to just chill a little bit and
Yeah, 100%.
just do some forearm curls and some calf raises. But yeah, I think offering diversity, offering a broader range of both equipment and opportunity is going to be crucial for gyms in the future.
Yeah,
And that's just been my take for a while. And I think from what I see going on both here and abroad, it's going that way. And you
okay.
only have to look at you know, the whole kind of functional bodybuilding thing that's happening. Like, we've been on that track for a long while, and I see it more and more. I think Training Think Tank just launched their version of a bodybuilding program.
Mhm.
And I see more and more like CrossFit gyms doing that now, because especially as people age, like me, I'm an old fuck, I'm 46 years old. Like, in your mind, you get into the mindset of, I want to, and I need to hold on to as much lean muscle tissue as I possibly
Yeah,
can. I want to stay healthy. I want to maintain a good body composition, so forth. And I don't want to look like a bag of shit. And I want to stay like injury free, and I want my joints to feel good. So you kind of, find yourself moving in that direction.
yeah,
And not to say that I don't still love CrossFit and still jump into CrossFit, because I do it all the time and I love it. It's just I can't do it all the time. I
yeah,
can't do CrossFit. I can't do CrossFit 6 days a week. My body just can't take it anymore. And honestly, my mind can't take it anymore either. So I just get kind of burnt out. So
yeah,
having that kind of flexibility to bounce around from one program to another, um, I find personally super beneficial. And I think a lot of other people find it, beneficial as well. Um,
yeah. I think it's I mean, yeah, I completely agree with everything that you said, and I think that is one of the best things of how you guys you guys did really really well on building this space. Because personally, I mean, to my own my own opinion, and also when I would teach myself and had my clients at Invictus, like I never I don't think CrossFit is the way for everybody. I think it's a great start sometimes to get people in the gym and teach and like coach people to, if they want to learn some new skills, awesome. But like even in class, like we 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 would run two different tracks. Like there would be like the CrossFit track, and then there'd be like the fitness track with like the less skill. And I would always encourage people to not snatch, or not like necessarily like, hey, you're not snatching, but like you watch how people move, right? If they're like, what, like if they can't hinge properly, or they can't,
yeah,
whatever it is, they're not squatting correctly, like I'm not going to have them go and do snatches or cleans or whatever. And I'd always completely teach a different program. And I think that's the most important thing about coaching too, is like knowing when to customize for certain people, right? And
exactly.
to give people
Yeah.
what they need in that session. Like maybe
Yes.
that session is not the bike sprints is what they need, right? Or maybe they don't need the heavy lifting or whatever it might be. Um, and that is one thing that I like strongly believe in. And also what makes a great coach is like knowing when to like switch things up, and not necessarily like I people are so against of like the whole what do you call it, like scaling and all that. Like I hate that word, but like the whole
Yeah,
RX
but it's
scaling.
that is, like you said, that is coaching. That is,
Yeah,
it's not what's written down on the piece of paper. It's
yeah.
what is right for this person right now in front of me.
Hmm.
And to have that, I had this conversation with my coach Josh up here in Idlewild yesterday. It's like, you have to be on the fly. Let's say you've got 20 people in a room. You have to, on the fly, be able to say, this is right for you, this is right for you, this is right for you, this is right for you. And that's hard to do. That
Yeah,
takes experience, it takes knowledge. It's not something you can learn on a weekend course. It really takes time to develop that skill set, and also to not panic, to
yeah,
be confident in your choices as a coach, and be like, trust me, this is not right for you. This is right for you. If we want to get this out of the workout, what the intention of the workout is, this is the right movement for you. This is the right weight for you. This is how it should be done. And to me, that is CrossFit at its best. Is that it's like, I understand what the demand of this workout is, what the sensation should be, how my client should feel at the end of the session, and I have the knowledge and capability to diagnose that version of this workout to the right people.
yeah,
And that's what a phenomenal CrossFit coach to me is.
Yeah,
You know,
I agree.
I don't really care if you have like an athlete at the games or anything like that. I think to a degree, not that that's easy. It's very, very hard to get to be a coach that gets an athlete to the games. But if I have a coach that in a room of 20 people can just be on the fly, like, you know, doing what I said, just like juggling that challenge,
Yeah,
that's a great coach.
yeah,
And care about it and really care about it. That's a great coach. Because, you're never going to get the applause and the reward of like, I'm a games coach. I coached 3 people to the games. Like,
yeah,
you're never going to get that reward from it. You just
yeah,
have to be the kind of person that's like, fuck, I really helped some people today, and I feel really good about that. That
yeah,
fucking nourished my soul, and I can sleep well tonight knowing that I did that.
yeah.
So that's what a great coach is, and that is I think that's also been the problem with CrossFit. Like when you don't have great coaches who do that, it gets a bad name because they are prescribing the wrong thing and people are doing the wrong thing and they are going to get hurt and they are going to not get. If you're just staring at a barbell for 5 minutes while the clock's ticking, you're not getting anything out of that workout. Like
Yeah.
it's a complete waste of time. So I think to a degree, that's where CrossFit as a brand has struggled. If you don't have great coaches,
That's a lot of
yeah,
CrossFit gyms. If you go to any normal CrossFit gym, the really like 90% of them, you walk into the class, you look at the Wodify TV screen that I don't even understand that still is a thing. But like you read the workout and they're like, okay, warm up. You're like, wait, what?
yeah,
What
yeah,
is,
yeah.
I've never been to this class.
It's wild.
What's a thruster?
Yeah,
Like, what's an EMOM? Like, there's so many things. Like, I don't
right.
know. It's kind of it's crazy to me. And then sometimes like I think learning how to properly warm up a class and knowing what the stimulus of the workout is, like all those things, like I just like, especially for CrossFit, like I said, if you're teaching a real like a CrossFit class, like those things need to be like talked about and explained and just coached through, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
for
I
sure.
could go on
Te-
about this whole thing. It's
yeah, I know. It's a yeah, me too. For you, knowing that when we talk about motivation, what really keeps you motivated? Like knowing that chances are you'll never win the CrossFit Games, right?
right.
Maybe you will, but chances are, statistically, you won't. Um, what motivates you to do this to yourself every day and to be so just on it and so disciplined with everything that you're doing? What's the kind of motivation behind it?
Yeah. Like I feel like, as cliche as it sounds, like we all know that motivation comes and goes, and I think the biggest thing is always to kind of just rely on your discipline and just to continue to show up. I think like just feeling good and pushing hard to me is like, I think it goes into life in general. And um that's how I kind of view it. Like if you can push really hard in the gym, you could push hard at anything else that you want to do in life. And because I've always done sports like that, I always feel like I've always been rewarded in some way. That like, if I can get through this tough workout physically, I can get through whatever thing that I'm going through mentally or outside of life. And I think, yeah, I think just having that work ethic, like, of course I'm not
Yeah.
motivated every single day, but and even on the days that I'm not motivated, like I've learned to step away sometimes. Like, okay, like maybe today I don't do that
Yeah.
hard piece, but I think just showing
Yeah.
up every day, like it's hard for me to say like what motivates me, because I don't necessarily always believe in, like, I don't believe in motivation. I just believe in just kind of showing up and doing it. And but yeah, everybody's gonna have
Yeah.
those hard days, and to I guess the key to that is just to always stay moving. And I think that's another reason too why when I do show up to work out, I always start with some sort of workout. I don't always properly warm up. I'll start with some cardio piece just to get myself moving. And then from
Right.
there, like, yeah, like I lately I don't enjoy lifting. And it's weird because lifting last season used to be my favorite thing to do. Like I'm good at it. And even now, like I'm great at it. I've made some PRs and stuff, like, but I don't enjoy it. Like I don't want to pick up the barbell. I like looking forward to it. I'm like, oh, I don't want to do those snatches, or I don't want to do this. But like I'll just do like a 20-minute piece of something and just move. And it's like kind of like a runner's high sometimes. And you're like, all right, I'm ready. Like my head is cleared. Like you got
Yeah.
your mindset right. Yeah, it's always a lot of steps into getting yourself going. But I think the biggest thing for anyone is just to start in whatever you're doing. Like I said, outside of
Do you
CrossFit,
feel do you feel like for you now, this is a weird question maybe, but is it more about the brand of Lalo Torres, Fit by Lalo? Is it more about working hard to develop your brand than working hard to compete at the CrossFit Games? Because
yeah,
the way I look at you and your production is that you are very good at like building a brand. Like you have this whole kind of like lifestyle thing going on where it's like you're not just showing yourself in the gym. You show yourself, you know, waking up in the morning, your routine, you know, the supplements that you're taking, the outside of the gym stuff, clothing, apparel, like the things you wear, the things you do. You're very good at creating a brand. So when I see someone like you, I think to myself, this guy is using fitness to reveal, you know, himself and his brand rather than saying the CrossFit Games is everything. Like
mhm,
fitness is everything to me. It's not. It's more like saying fitness is super important to me and it fits into my life and this is my life. And it's kind of like what I do, right? It's like saying, you know, fitness is it's my anchor. It's what keeps me, you know, stable every day, and I do it every day. But the fitness isn't everything. Like it's a big part of what I do, but it's not everything. And I think a lot of people get themselves in trouble mentally when it does become everything. And CrossFit is everything to them. And then they get an injury, or then they don't make it to semifinals. And then suddenly it's like the worst thing in the world, and they're completely crushed. And it's like, listen, this wasn't going to do anything for you anyway. This wasn't going to suddenly make you a millionaire. This wasn't going to suddenly like make the world stand up and clap. It's just fitness.
yeah,
And I think when people get in too deep with that relationship, they can really struggle mentally.
yeah,
So when I look at you, and there are other people, like I look at Bethany as well, Flores from Redondo, she's very good at that too. I
yeah.
see a more kind of balanced approach to it of like, yes, I love it. Yes, it's important. Yes, it's a big part of my life. But so just, I have all this other stuff, and all this stuff contributes to what Lalo Torres is, and you know how I want to present myself, who I am, kind of thing. And I
It's
just
funny
think
you
that's
say that because I literally just wrote a post out today exactly that. Of
yeah,
like people kept asking me, they're like, "Hey, how come you didn't do quarterfinals?" Or "Hey, how come you didn't like? Are you not competing anymore?" And whatever. And I'm like, at first I contemplated a lot on like even doing a post about it because I'm like, I'm not one to make dramatic, announcements or anything like that, or I don't want to make it also seem that CrossFit is what makes me, like I am
right.
who I am, but I'm not like this, like I don't live and breathe CrossFit. And I wanted to make sure that I got the right message across. And basically I said everything that what you said, like, hey, like, like we go through injuries and, sometimes like our body and our minds are not in sync together. And it's okay to change the direction. It's like okay to do something different. It's okay to step into, whatever it is that you're doing because like it's not my it personally it's not my whole life. Like it was last season for sure, like I was all about it, but I by the time I was done with the open last season, my head was checked out.
Yeah,
I hated being in the gym.
yeah,
I was like didn't want to go to semifinals even though like I knew I was going to go to games that season. I was like it was like top 10 or 8, I can't remember what it
right.
was, but like I knew that we were going to qualify. Like that wasn't even a thing. Like but I was so fed up with everything and like just feeling, not recovered, and like my body was just beat down
Yeah,
and mentally, yeah, like you're so like it's too much. Like it's not that it's too much, but there's also a lot of things that play into how I felt last season. But like yeah, it's not life. Like again, I said this before, like I said this earlier, like there's no
yeah.
reward to it. Like yeah, sure, if you win the CrossFit Games like on a team, you get 75 grand that you have to split in between 4 people. Like what that goes like it's not even enough to like to survive for a couple months in California. I don't know, but
Yeah,
like it's just like there's not to me, the way I look at it, like again, it is I enjoy it. I do it. I love training hard. Like that's my main thing. Like I love putting myself through brutal workouts. And and doing that stuff, but it's not, at the end of the day, it's not like, okay,
I
cool, like if it doesn't
because
happen, it
over the
doesn't
years
happen. Like
and with
there's so many people this season specifically, which I find interesting, that all dropped out. Like lots of people, they like competed last year, the years before, like all this, like a lot of them are not competing this season because it's, one, it becomes a lot, and two, like there's so many injuries, and three, the sport is so inconsistent. I mean, if you look at the brand, the CrossFit brand, like the sport, like they change it every season. Like there's nothing that's ever been the same. Like it's, they preach a lot about consistency of like how they do things, and it's very much not that. That's for sure. So, um, but yeah, I don't know. I think that's the most important thing as an athlete, is to know, like, to be okay with the fact that, like, okay, if you have to change things up and you have to change direction, like it's okay. It's not the end of the world.
Yeah, I think in the end, you have to take from it what you need to get from it, and move on. And that might be a little bits, it might be a lot. But yeah, adapt, take from it what you need, and then move on. Listen, Lalo, I wanted to thank you so much for joining me today. We're actually going to do a part two of this podcast. This went a little long. We're having such a good conversation. I love chatting with this guy, so we're going to do a part two. It's going to come up real soon. As always, guys, thank you so much for listening. Please like the podcast. Please share the podcast. It really helps us. Come see us in Echo Park at 1316 Glendale Boulevard. Come see us in Redondo Beach at 2101 Artesia Boulevard. Come see us in Idlewild in our little mountain gym. Awesome, awesome little place up here where I live. And then look out for our new gym opening in Palm Springs. We're trying to get it open this summer. All depends on the county. See how that goes. You know how the deal is. But yeah, it's coming soon and it's going to be incredible. So we've got a little sign up sheet going. So sign up for to register your interest. We are going to do a pre-sale. So you're going to get some great deals on pre-sale. So make sure you're paying attention. All right, guys. Until next time, take care. See ya. Bye.